Hey, buddy, welcome to Kyle and Nick on Film. We are suited up, wearing what we would normally wear on bikes, right?
Right. We're going to talk about one of the summer blockbusters. Let's get started.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast, yada, yada, yada. We have a Patreon, of course. Check that out for some great deals and great content and an opportunity to review our show and to give a shout out for future episodes as well. Both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours. And today we're talking about the summer blockbuster. It was already hit. What's going on?
All right. When Kathy strikes up an uneasy relationship with Benny, a member of the Vandals Motorcycle Club, she becomes entwined in their world, including occasional clashes with the leader Johnny. As their story is captured through interviews with photographer Danny Lyon, the Vandals MC slowly evolves from a friendly riding club into a violent criminal gang.
Okay, this is based on the book about the experiences of the outlaw gang. Of course, they don't mention them as outlaw in the movie. They're called the Vandals. Same kind of premise. Based on the book, and very much like Hunter S. Thompson explored and investigated Hell's Angels, this is Danny Lyon doing with the Outlaws, which is kind of like the rival motorcycle gang. It exploded. So, yeah, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, I appreciate the fact that this is more of a fictionalized account, and that's probably why we used Vandals instead of Outlaws as opposed to anything there. I like that there is a giant cast of characters, really colorful characters across the board in this film.
Yeah, I'm like that. Michael Shannon can take a back seat to some of the headliners. He's not going to be the headliner on the star, but he's prominent in there. He also worked with Midnight Special with the director, the same director that did Midnight Special. He was in that movie as well. So he does a lot of collaborations with Michael Shannon.
Yeah, I think this is their
Nichols,
fifth time together.
Yeah,
so we've got a nice cabaret of characters right here. When I saw Michael Shannon, I assumed it was going to be a cameo and he'd be out in 2 seconds, but no, he stuck around for a little while. I think the big surprise I noticed in our theater for the pop was when Norman Reedus showed up, because I did not know he was in this movie. In a very colorful Californian biker role. There was one woman in the front that must have been a fan of Walking Dead because she screamed aloud when it happened.
Right, yeah, but very much not the same kind of character as she sees in The Walking Dead. This is kind of a different kind of fixture.
Yeah.
So I do like the temperament of it. I like the cut of it. It doesn't have a linear story, and it does what I always appreciate. You get your action out first, then you set up your status quo, and then you get into the development here. I do see this might be the opportunity for them campaigning for Tom Hardy for an Oscar nomination for this movie. I think it's time that he probably gets his accolades. I would see them press hard for him, trying to get some kind of nomination for all three of them.
Yeah, I think our trifecta of people. I mean, I don't think there's a bad performance in the film, but our trifecta at the front, I was completely blown away from Jodie Comer.
Yeah, she
I've
carries
never seen
the
her
whole thing.
played a movie like this. It's interesting that I hate to say it, that the spouse of the biker is the lead person in the bike movie.
Right.
But she just owns every scene she's in. Her accent was on point. Her mannerisms were on point for that kind of an area, and I believe I don't know for certain. I believe she's English, so I don't know that I don't know.
No, she has this very Midwestern accent to her.
Yeah.
She does it really well, but the way she says candy ass is perfect.
Yeah. I was absolutely enthralled
Still
with the
stuck in
fact
my brain,
I can't even understand how she pulled off that voice work. That was incredible.
Right, yeah. Everybody gets their moment. Everybody gets their scene. Everybody gets their exposition, their camera shot. Cinematography is out of this world. I do like the score. Now, a lot of people are saying this is very much like Goodfellas, and that's kind of a lazy interpretation. Pretty much every movie after 1990 has some kind of a DNA of Goodfellas into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to say, oh, this is like Goodfellas with motorcycles, sure. But that movie has influenced everybody after 1990. Yeah.
But I mean, I see the point that they're going for, and for Jeff Nichols, this is a very different film, at least from the ones that I've seen of his. This feels like a more assured, more confident film where he's at like this has been going through his mind for decades. I mean, he talked to Michael Shannon on another film that they did before this, where Shannon said, "You're never going to make that movie, like because it's just the one you've been mulling over for so long. You saw this photo book years ago, and you said I want to make a bike movie." And then just never did. And so it's really nice to see. I love when a filmmaker's finally able to complete a passion project. And I love when a passion project is as solidly put together as this. You're right. The visual aesthetic looks like all these photos out of the photo book. I was able to peruse some of the photos. He captures that tone so well.
Yeah, the photo book after the end of the credits. I'm hopefully it won't get missed for accolades after award season, but I think there'll probably be some other films along the line that are just going to outshine this one. But it really carries the movie. There's a great shot and scene and how they framed it and the composition and edited of just Tom Hardy and Austin Butler together in the dark.
Oh, that the camp out kind of thing?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things. Out of all of the great scenes of it, it just shot really well. Yeah, and you have the whole arc and journey. You actually care for a lot of these people, even though they probably would beat you up.
Yeah.
And you have a great closure to it that I didn't think was happening. You have this understanding that probably you're going to crash and burn at the end. Right. It's in my top 10. It's probably going to stay there for a long time. I don't know how anything else is going to knock it off after.
Yeah, it was. I think it was an excellent film. I definitely, if I'm going to find a fault with it, I do think the first half is stronger than the second half. I think the camaraderie portion, rather than this kind of evolution fall, it's a little bit more clunkier about the jumping around. Whereas, but I think overall most of it actually works quite well because you're right. The film is extremely nonlinear, which can be kind of jarring, but I think this is a better non-linear presentation than what we had like last year with Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer jumped around a lot too. I think this film kind of tethers you to the time periods a little bit more. And I went into this movie, I didn't care for the poster. I didn't really care for the trailer. I thought the movie kind of looked like what someone thought this movie would look like if it was made in the 50s. Like you got that influence of the Wild One. But at the same time, the realism of what's going on with 10, 15 years changed on that film. I was not expecting the film to feel as gritty, as realistic, as tight-knit as this one was.
Yeah, it's one of those I think is going to get a huge campaign on the grassroots of it. It doesn't get a hard promotion. I think they're waiting on the audience to give it's the steam and engine to keep going. Right. I do like all the performances in it. Nobody's like winking at the camera like, kind of believe I'm doing. Everybody's really sincere. And I just like the depth, the color. You get the feel of the hierarchy with this. Everybody has their own distinct personality and that flourishes, but you also get the hierarchy of why Tom is charismatic, but he's also kind of vulnerable at the same time.
Yeah,
and that's a little bit of Tom Hardy's performance.
There's a weird love that he has with these guys, even though at any given moment they're willing to fight each other in the dirt for what they believe in, or potentially even willing to kill. But there is a certain kind of love, respect that they have. I want to single out one of the supporting characters in the film who I think embodied the correction of tone that this had, and that's Carl Glusman. He also appeared in films like The Neon Demon. He played Corky, who's one of the smaller guys. If you see the end of the film, he's one of the guys watching what happens in the car during the fight. His performance is such a perfect encapsulation of what the film's tone is and how it is captured, because a lot of the time in the film he is shocked and surprised by what's going on. He's kind of a very low secondary character.
I agree. Yeah.
And his reaction to what's going on is occasionally funny, it's occasionally serious, it's occasionally sad. His character almost feels like where we as the audience are, where like we don't entirely know what we've gotten ourselves into.
He's kind of like, I always label it like a barometer character. Like, are we supposed to laugh at that? Well, that character's laughing, so it makes it better. Yeah. Or he's scared, and then we're all kind of scared kind of thing.
Yeah. And Emery Cohen is the same way. He plays Cockroach, a very notable character in the film because he literally talks about eating bugs all the time, which is something I never thought I'd see in a Jeff Nichols film.
Great exposition. That's like one of the best expositions in the whole movie.
Yeah. But Emery Cohen, I felt like he was going to blow up after a movie called Brooklyn about 9 years ago, where he played the love interest to Saoirse Ronan. And he kind of didn't. He didn't have that explosion that I thought he was going to, even though he's such an enigmatic performer who does subtlety really well. It was kind of fun to see him do the opposite of subtlety through most of this film.
So, overall, I'm looking for a lot of push for nominations for this movie. I wouldn't be surprised if all three get nominated, but I really want to see Tom Hardy get something for all of his body work that he's already established already. And then it was in the nose. It was hurting, and then it came back with his career came back with Bronson, his role playing Bronson in the movie Bronson. And I would like to hopefully see something with cinematography. Editing is kind of clunky, even though it's really jarring at the beginning.
I think it's mostly good editing. When you really compare it to the swath of films out there, and again, I've got to appreciate the pace. But you're right. I do think that near the end, that's kind of a difficult thing. The funny thing about Hardy is this feels like almost his Departed movie, in that like it's a very classic Tom Hardy role, and that's probably what he'll eventually get it for.
Especially when talking about people that are outside of society, who are kind of like mobsters, but have this gang mentality. And they treat it, it's very much, when I watch the movie, they very much act like it's high school dynamics.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we're in the gang, but you're kind of this part of the gang, and this is the elite gang. You can't sit at this table. This is where the cool people sit, at this table, or this way. And and it's nice to see Jodie Comer's character come in as an outsider, like we are, and then but she gives the explanation of the dynamic, so exploring this as an outsider looking in, and we kind of, as a viewer, participating in it as well.
Yeah, much like The Last Duel, she's kind of given what would be perceived as a secondary character role, and comes out of it, I believe, to be the strongest performer in the film. And I think that's just more of a testament. I wish we got more than 8 seconds of her in The Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, I was. This is one of the things where I wish we had a little more time in this world a little bit. I know it has the right timing. It's got the right time spent, but it's almost like you watch the story and you get invested. I wish we had a little more involved, a little more longer. We could hang out with them a little bit.
Yep. Yeah, they always say, the bad movies are too long and the good movies are too short. But
Right. But definitely memorable, and there's some things that are very unforgettable in this movie. So, what do you think of our review of The Bikeriders?
yeah, let us know your thoughts down below. Will you be checking it out, or have you already seen the film? Let us know down in the comment section your thoughts below. You can find all of my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
Why the hell do we call bicyclists cyclists, and we call motorcycle riders bikers?
I don't know. Shower thoughts.
Yeah.